All right, a very warm good afternoon to everyone. For those of you know, I'm Kanika Tiwari. And about 10 years back when I started my company, which is called Go Divers, the objective really was to help organizations really, literally, figuratively, numerically, really go diverse. With that, let's get started. We are talking about equity equations. And my father asked me some years back, Beta, tum karti kya ho? And explaining to him, he's a Fauji guy, he was in the army, it was a tough one. So I used a metaphor and tell me if this metaphor really works with you. So I told him, I said, do you remember the day I got married? He said, I can never forget. I said, diversity is like calling everybody for my wedding. Chacha, mama, taya, all of that is diversity. So he said, then what is equality? I said, treating everybody equally, groom side, bride side equally, same plate, same shadi ke thele, that is called equality. And then he said, inclusion क्या होता है? I said, inclusion होता है शादी के बाद जब लोग आपको आके बोलें कि यार आपने हमें बहुत अच्छी तरह से treat किया, I felt very included. That is called inclusion. He said, फिर belonging क्या होता है? I said, जब लोग आपको सामने से आके बोलें कि कुछ हमारे लायक बताइए, let me tell you how can I help you, that is called belonging. And he said, बेटा फिर ये equity क्या होता है? ये तो बड़ा confusing हो रहा है. I said, very simple. If you have somebody's parents who are ailing, who need a wheelchair, or somebody's child who is still in a pram, and if you can make a small ramp for them to get on the stage, that is called equity, because everybody doesn't need it. And that is my very humble definition of what equity could really stand for. I have a very august panel with me here. I'm going to begin with few questions and let's see how they respond. So we are going to do Kaun Banega Crorepati without the crores, which I have anyways taken. Okay, ready? Do you have your mics in hand? All set. I'm going to invite you to, I'm going to ask them a few questions. They're going to respond in one words. And once I'm done with them, I'll come to you. All right, so get ready. The first one. Who negotiates better at home? Men or women?
For us as individual or...
What do you think? Okay. Who negotiates better at home?
Anytime a women.
Women, okay. Sir, we have to take the gentleman's perspective as well.
It depends on what is the object of negotiation. That is how I would look at it.
Men can make simple things tough. Yeah. I'm just joking. All right, let's go to the next one. Who negotiates better at work?
Men.
Okay. What do men lie about?
Everything.
I didn't say it. She said it. What do women lie about? Chetna ji, what do women lie about?
Age.
Such a frivolous thing to age about. Jhuriyan to nazar aa hi jati hai. Okay, who's less likely to get feedback at work between men and women? Less likely to get feedback at work.
That is on individual. I don't think so. There
No?
is.
You
men
feel
and
there is-
women.
there is-
I don't see any
depends,
difference there.
You don't feel any difference. Umarji, what do you think?
No, I think it depends on the person who is giving the feedback. But if we are trying to generalize it, again, if it's, as you know, that only 2.5% women in Fortune 500 companies in leadership positions, that would mean that people who are going to give feedback are largely men. And if it is man to man or man to woman, in that case, men are likely to get more feedback. But it is largely dependent on who is giving a feedback.
My panel is really very diverse. It's ranging really. And who's receiving it as well?
Exactly.
Goes both ways? Interesting. I have some more. Who doesn't like to be interrupted when they are speaking, men or women?
Both, actually. No one
I think,
likes to.
yeah, both.
Okay, तो बहुत ही similar प्राणी हैं हम. Who listens better, men or women?
I think again that is individual basis. I don't think so. There is you can't generalize that.
You can't generalize. Okay, I'm getting very, very right answers here. Who's more receptive on emotions? What am I getting? Bidisha, your answer will be the final veto power.
No, I think I've had like both men and women, and both like women who are not emotional and men who are very emotional. So I think it really depends.
Goes both ways, I'm sensing.
Yeah,
It's completely
totally.
gender intelligent and
Yeah,
both genders
yeah.
are equally intelligent.
Yeah.
Can women have it all?
I think that's a choice one has to make. So you may not have everything, but you still have everything. So it's a mindset. I believe in that, and I see that.
Thank you. Can men have it all?
Have it all?
Have it all. Like have it, have everything. Can men have it all? Indra
No.
Nooyi said this beautiful statement once saying women can't have it all. And ever since I wondered, do men have it all?
Okay, the answer is no.
Yeah, okay. Very, very, very diverse answers we are getting here. Now I have some questions for the audience and we'd like for you to participate. Help me understand, according to UN, how many years will it take for us to bridge the gender gap? How many years? Take a ballpark. We have some awards awaiting for you. 100 plus. Let's do a best of three. Ek aa gaya. Let me take two more. Gender gap. According to UN, how long will it take to bridge the gender gap? Gender gap. 20, 100. I'll take one more and best of three ho jayega hamara. Gender gap in terms of employment, accessibility. Thank you for clarifying the question, Aditya. 50 years. Do you want to know the right answer? UN says it will take 257 years for the gender gap to be bridged. And sometimes I wonder if gender gap is going to take 257 years, disability gap, neurodivergent gap, generational gap could probably be so much more. Question number 2. By the way, I want to make a disclaimer here. I know for a while now we've been speaking men, women, and I know gender is representative of pride. And if you feel that I'm not asking questions, inclusive, then forgive me. Because a lot of what I'm asking here is gender-based and research-based. And for the longest time, research is skewed on only looking at two genders largely. So by any means, my intent is not to hurt anyone. Please accept my humble apologies if I do. Question number 2. This is a fun one. Do men and women have different tear ducts? True or false? Do men and women have different tear ducts? True or false? It's true. So for all the men out there, if you think women start crying and pull out a crying card every time you say something, they are built differently. For all the women in the room, if your men are not crying, don't dial up the torture, saying Rohini Rai isko rula ke rahenge. Okay, who has more children? Chetna, in your experience between men leaders and women leaders, who do you think has more children? What do you think research would say?
Men or women, you're asking me?
Between men and women, who has more children?
Women considers to have more children biologically and without also, because you have that sense of being motherhood. So you have that empathy of considering many of them to be your children in that way.
So research proves that if you have a married family, men, as they start growing up the ladder, tend to have more children as compared to women executives who reach the very top. Last two. Women's brain is 10% smaller than a man's. True or false? It's true. Following question. With age, a man's brain shrinks faster than a woman's. True. And I want to know from Bidisha now. Bidisha, in your experience, you've led large teams as well. Do women pay a price for being aggressive?
Well, I did, for sure. I definitely paid a price several times for, I wouldn't say aggressive, for just being me, I think. Because I have, of course, now I run my own consulting company in India and in Dubai, but before this, I was working as a CLO and CHRO in many organizations, large organizations, leading large teams. I think just being very good at your job and having a mind of your own and not towing the line, definitely I have paid the price a few times, but I'm willing to pay the price again and again and again because it was all worth it. And I think I'll leave it to, I can go on for an hour about this. So let me know.
Thank you. Thank you, Vidisha. Omar, let me come to you. Do you think men pay a price for being too soft?
And what kind of price?
Is there a price to be paid in terms of value? I like it that every time I have a question, there is a follow up question. I like that. The question I'm really asking is, do you think men pay a price if they are being too soft because the world expects them to be of a certain model, certain kind, aggressive out there, forthcoming, assertive? Do men pay a price if they're too soft? Have you heard any conversations when potentials are being assessed?
Uh, if we try and put it in generic context, maybe little bit towards the yes side, but it also depends on the role that the man is playing. If it's a finance person, soft is all right. If it's a sales guy, soft may not be all right. But in general, maybe yes, little bit tilting towards yes.
Can be possibly be yes. Let me go to now Bidisha. Bidisha, help me understand that do we have a leaky pipeline or do you think it's a systemic sieve?
Sure. So, I think in my many years of experience, in fact, when I was starting my career in my early 20s, there were so many options and opportunities that came to me as a woman as well and as an employee. But sometimes I remember turning them down because one was that I had to travel too far or it was a traveling job, etc. So I think this whole point of the leaky pipeline or the sieve, it definitely exists, but I think it's not just the organization or just the employees alone to blame. I think it's more systemic because unfortunately in India and rest of the world, it is up to women to sort of take up a lot of the household duties, right? So in fact, interestingly, we're just doing some work with JSW. In fact, they're here in the evening today. And one of the things that we are talking to them about is, how you have a career mindset. And when we do this study, when we ask women, they said, "Hame nahi chahiye career because I cannot travel. I can't leave my kid. My husband is going to have to, then probably trying to figure out how he will manage, or I don't have support for my in-laws," right? So the leaky pipeline exists because of systemic issues, because of probably imbalance in the way household chores or duties are existing. That's one side of it. But I also believe that it also exists because many times I have seen from my own story and from many women that I know that we don't raise our hands enough. All right. So I remember doing this exercise in one of the other forums, and it was a simple, I was actually speaking, I was addressing. I asked a question. It was a room full of women with a handful of men, okay, with a handful. So there would be like 100 women and maybe 20 men. I asked a question, and guess how many women raised their hand to answer that question? Take a guess. Okay, not more than two, but almost all the men raised their hands to answer the question. So, well, I'm taking it literally, but I'm telling you this, I have seen it, I have made the mistake, and today I have seen women make that mistake over and over again. So, where we have organizations trying to support, trying to enable, but sometimes our women don't raise their hand enough, maybe because they're not sure that I fulfill all the criterias in the JD, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't know, 2 out of 10 things that I'm supposed to do, or I may not be ready enough. And the third reason that comes to my mind is, again, from my personal experience and my personal opinion, which is what I was talking to you earlier. I write about my book in my book as well, In Your Turn to Rise, is a lack of having allies and sponsors. Okay, I remember again early on in my career, I focused a lot on just getting the job done, but not so much about understanding organization dynamics, about understanding networks inside the organization, right? So I thereby missed having the opportunity to have an ally. So many times, oftentimes, what we've seen and noticed is that usually women drop off, one because they don't have a sponsor who will support them, two because they have too much going on in their personal life to balance, and three because they themselves are not raising their hand enough because of all this issue. And I had an opportunity to travel with CII to Finland, Norway, and Sweden. And we did this deep study about how the academia, the government, and the corporate have come together to really fix some of these systemic issues so that women can have a better opportunity to be at work, right? So I think my answer to your question, which is a great question, the leaky pipeline exists very much, but the onus is first on women themselves. The onus is on the government, the corporates, and the schools and colleges, everybody, the academia, and then also the employees or senior leaders or people who have the potential to be allies to women. So I think these are some of the reasons
Thank you.
that
And I
one
think the
exists.
Scandinavian countries have had a very different philosophy, largely because of the talent pool is limited, so they're trying to make the most of it. But in a country like India, with a billion population, there is talent in every corner. So how do you make your talent decisions? And Chetna, I know at LTR Mindtree there is so much that you're doing. So could you help me understand two things? One is if you are creating women in the platform and you're creating, say, women leadership programs, or you're creating a women fast track program to support Bidisha's point, what are some of the initiatives that LTI has done that you think really works?
So we already have a program called Empower Her,
Okay.
and that's a almost a close to year-long program. We have tied up with INSEAD Singapore. We actually help enable the upcoming women emerging leaders to walk that path of leadership. And that's beautifully embedded with coaching, mentoring, sponsorship, as well as helping them to get networked in the organization well, because we are a very large organization, 90,000 people, presence in 47 countries. So it's not easy unless you bring a structured program in place
Yeah.
to bring these people in the visibility. And that's the reason why there are initiatives which will help us to know the current leaders, the emerging leaders, and the budding leaders. And we have programs at each level to make sure that we give them the enough ecosystem for them to, grow in their career path.
Empower her. Interesting. Omar, help me understand from your experience that when women in the organization go for a program called Empower Her, how do the men talk about it?
Well, let me tell you that I'm one thing is happy that Rishi will invite me for next 200 odd years to talk on diversity, because as per the UN, the difference is not going to be there, and we'll continue to talk about it for 200 plus years. If you ask me, we shouldn't be having this discussion at all. And second point I have is that to answer your question, it 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 depends on if we limit ourselves to an organization.
Yeah.
If I try and dissect your question and limit it to an organization, it depends on the organization's culture and the leadership, how you look at when a woman is being sent for an empowerment program. It starts from the top, and if the culture goes down to in the organization that we talk about leaders or workers or resources who are supposed to get work done for the organization, then where is man, woman, or whatever it is comes into the play anyways. Okay. For me, it is still instilled in men's mind that we are men, and we have to work, we have no choice. When you get out of your institute and you are supposed to do what, you will work. And when a girl gets out of an institute, if I have to talk about my own life, my sister who is older to me, the thought is that graduate kar do, shadi kara denge. Okay, that thought was not there for me. Graduate MBA kara lo aur shadi kara do. No, I have to work by default. Okay, now that psychology gets built up from the family, and then gets instilled, and those people who grow in that mindset become leaders, and then those leaders are creating many other sub leaders around them and have that mindset. In my opinion, in my organization there is nothing. It is like, yeah, you send for them for empowerment because they are capable and they should be empowered and they should do what organization needs them to do, as simple as that. But in a general statement, Maybe it is looked at differently. I haven't experienced it since I have been too long in this organization to experience it. But I'm not sure, and I'll be very surprised if people raise eyebrows saying that, ki, oh, woman is going for empowerment, matlab meri boss banegi or something like that. I don't know. But I don't think it should be there at the first place. Why? It's about business. It's about people. It's about business. If I use a word which my organization uses called business technologists, is there a gender to that? There is no gender to it. As simple as that.
Interesting. I have a question for the audience. Do you care if your boss is male or female, or a man or a woman? Do you care? I thought so. You're going to say that. But interestingly, Harvard did a very interesting research. They went out to their passing out graduates and they asked them, do you care if your boss is male or female? And because they'd gone through a lot of diversity workshops like most of you have gone through, most of them said, no, I don't care. But when they did further conjoint analysis and they looked at the result, it was found out that people, both boy students and girl students, are willing to work for less for a male boss as compared to a woman boss. An interesting thing is, it was not just the men students who were willing to work for a male boss, it was even the girl students who did not want to work for a woman boss. Chetna, your thoughts to this and to what Mr. Omar said?
I agree with you, and I can relate to this because I come from a non-tech world for 25 years, and for last 1.5 year, 25, 26 years, in last 1.5 year, I'm in a tech world. The culture in both side of the world is very different. Okay.
Yeah.
And I have seen also that how this topic of DI actually have taken life and shape over a period of 2 decades, right?
Yes.
One point in time in my career, when I was working for a logistics company, I think number of women in the company were handful, other than the enabling functions. But today in the L&T group, there are women who are actually the CEOs equivalent, okay, and they are one of them have led and signed off the bullet first time India's bullet train project.
Yes.
She signed it up. So we coined a story on her as Bullet Rani in L&T. We have a all women plant in L&T run by women. We have one of the Tata Steel project in Jharkhand, 100-ton mining machinery was, the plant was built up by all women. So I think there are many stories. So the gone are those days that that you just can't tabooate the women in the organization. I think more awareness in the society also have given us wing and a voice to speak up and to kind of look out for a place to create our own space. Now when we started our career, of course we are not knowing how to build network, how to build relationship, how to kind of create allyship. But I think these structured programs, as I was mentioning you, these are only programs which will help you to give your or to nurture your wings to fly better. So these are initiatives which should continue in the organization. But beyond organization, the thought of, as Uma was saying, that it's there in the mind of the men that we are men and you are women. I think therefore it has to work beyond the corporate. The society, actually the society and beyond society, our culture also need to be in such a way that at a childhood level, if we do not box ourselves to become a woman and a girl child and a male child, and we don't differentiate at the family level about the work, about the many other procedural work at home, that will actually help to create that iceberg model so that we don't have to discuss like this in panel.
Yeah, I do wish the conversation really did change. And because we are talking about conversations changing, both Bidisha and Umar and Chetna, I'd love to understand. I'm thinking anybody can feel excluded. Is that right? One day I was on the phone and I was, moving up and down and I was talking to somebody and I said, women don't get a seat at the table. So my husband, who was listening to this nonsense conversation that I was doing with someone, turned around to me and said, do you think men are called for every conversation? Men are invited to every table? Men are invited to every meeting? So I often feel that exclusion in an organization is at a systemic level. If either an organization is inclusive or non-inclusive, and when it is non-inclusive, then it's just not inclusive to a certain sector or one demographic. It's exclusive to everybody. And with that thought in mind, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what do you really mean at a practical level? What do you mean by psychological safety?
I mean, it's a very widely
Yeah.
used word today, so I would rather call it as emotional safety.
Okay.
It actually means the same. Somebody said that I'm a psychologist, so she will relate to it. It's actually if you feel safe to speak up and your voice is heard, and you have a seat at the table for any kind of either not only in the boardroom but in a conference room and at workplace,
Yeah.
that gives you that inner strength to bring your best to work. And I agree with Uma. Anything in an organization has to start from the top.
Yeah.
And the father of the family, as the father of the family at our personal level, drives the culture at the home. Similarly, the father or the mother, whoever it is, again, not gender biased. So whoever is at the top, he has to be the torchbearer in terms of bringing that environment of speaking up, creating that environment of everybody equal, bringing that sense of equity, and also encouraging them to speak their mind and
Sure.
not being judgmental to each other. By the way, and my colleague Anindita and Tinesh both are there. We are driving a program at LTA Mindtree for the top 50 leaders. One of the pillar in that is a OD program is that psychological safety. That how do you bring the and not only for women, it is for men as well.
Excellent.
How do you bring the psychological safety amongst you at a leadership team that we are not being judgmental to each other?
So I'm again
Very
thinking
important.
like inequalities, even equalities are at a systemic level. As they say in diversity, right? You fix for one, you fix for everyone. That's really true. Umar, from your experience, how would you define psychological safety? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, if it has to be there, it has to be there for everyone. Okay, if we are trying to compartmentalize, we should not be compartmentalizing it.
Sure.
First point. Second point is that we need to create leaders or managers who, there is a saying in Hindi, I will switch to Hindi, saying that कि बोलने वाला और सुनने वाला का equal हिम्मत होना चाहिए. Okay, somebody who can say and somebody who can't listen, then there's a mismatch. So, in my opinion, uh, again, it boils down to the overall environment and the culture that you are in. There could be some organizations where this will be very, very pointed and important topic and part, and in some organization, culturally, it doesn't matter. Okay, you are free to speak your mind, you are free to get feedback, you are free to express reaction or objection to the feedback that you get. You can say whatever is correct or wrong, as long as it is aligning with the organizational vision and the organizational goal. I don't think I have a straight answer to it, but in my opinion, the overall culture should be in a way that we should not be discussing about this word at all. It should be part of the way of working, in my opinion.
So Umar says we shouldn't be talking about it all, and I'm thinking that's like a pledge for all organizations out there that few years from now, this is not the conversations, and our conversations have evolved. But for us to reach that point of view, Bidisha, I know you do some work in the space of wellness. Help me understand from a DEI perspective, psychological safety, mindset, mental health, especially after COVID, with changing organizations' profile. What do you think is the importance of mental wellness and the load that everyone carries?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's become so imperative today, than ever before. In fact, when I was growing up, there was no such word at mental well-being. And today I have a 15-year-old daughter. If I tell her to study harder, she says, you're disturbing my mental well-being. So don't
My
say
chakras,
that.
you're disturbing my chakras
So
and
she says that to me. So yeah, well, it's a double-edged sword, but that's on the lighter side. But I think at least I will talk about again from a perspective, because we are in a conference of inclusion and diversity, for any gender that picks up more of the load, whether it's at home and managing work. I think I remember when I used to make my to-do list, I started realizing in my to-do list I was missing. So there was really no me time. There was no time to really think, rest, be mindful, and really focus on myself. And that's what, again, something that I write vehemently in my book, Your Turn to Rise. I talk about the art of setting boundaries. And I was really happy to note, I think about 2 days back, there was a bill passed in the parliament. Did anyone read it? The right to disconnect. Okay, Supriya Sule, she's a member of the parliament from the Congress party. So she's put this bill onto the parliament called the right to disconnect, which means I think today everyone is realizing that we are overconnected and we're always on, like 24/7 on. And thereby it becomes more important that when everything around you is telling you to stay always on, how do you step back, take a pause, and prioritize yourself? Well, I'll give you my own example because I don't like to preach to the choir. I'll give you my own example. There was a time in life where I had severe health issues because of the kind of work and too much stress and everything that started piling up. And I realized at that day that if you don't prioritize your own time, take some time for yourself. So what I love doing right now, like what works for me, is the 3 mantras I call bunch, budget, and buffer. So I bunch all the stuff that I love to do together. I budget for time together, and I buffer time, right? And I also call, and in fact, I was writing down my thoughts, and I'll share this with you because it has always helped me. I love to call this something called a power hour. A power hour during the whole week where I actually take 1 hour, which doesn't have to be 60 minutes at a stretch, can be 30 and 30 separately. And that's the time when you actually reconnect with yourself. So my power hour is on a Sunday morning when my family is sleeping. No one's calling from Dubai or India or wherever. And I get up at 6 in the morning, I take my car and I drive all the way to Nariman Point. And now I don't even have to do that because of the beautiful coastal road made by L&T and the beautiful promenade. So I drive and that's my power hour. The other thing that in terms of well-being also is whether you're developing yourself, whether you're actually spending the time to do something meaningful. So there's something that I write in the book and I call it the personal development lunches. So that's what I did for myself. And I was working either in Wellspan or HDFC or Future Group and now Reliance. I used to actually find allies sometimes or sponsors. I would actually meet them and maybe just have a quick lunch and a catch up with them. So something that energizes you, something that helps you sort of bounce back. Because it's like a battery. When the battery is drained, you're giving, you're doing. You're constantly on the treadmill. It's like you're trying to change the wheels of a moving car. So when do you take a pause? When do you disconnect? So power hour, personal development lunches have been my favorites. And of course, now I remember to put myself on the top of my to-do list. Yeah, so those are my little tips for mental well-being.
She mentioned lunch a little sooner than she should have, I am sensing. With that, we are all at the top of the hour, so I'd like to also close the panel. Kinjal sir is here, and for many years, I used to work for a company called Baxter. It's a US-based healthcare company. I worked for them in sales. At a time, not many women worked in sales. So one day I went to my boss and I said, I don't have a seat at the table. कहीं से सुना होगा मैंने, है ना? किताबें बहुत पढ़ती हूँ मैं, पिक्चरें बड़ी देखती हूँ. So मेरे बॉस ने मुझे देखा और उन्होंने मुझे बोला, तुम हो सीट पे टेबल देने के लिए लायक? हो तुम सीट देने लायक हो? ऐसी कोई हरकत है तुम्हारी कि तुम्हें एक सीट दी जाए टेबल पे? And I think that conversation taught me something very interesting. And I often believe in this even today. That a lot of time we keep talking to people saying, you're not giving me a seat at the table. But sometimes it also takes a onus on me to say, am I worthy of that seat on the table? Am I deserving of that? And I think inclusion begins with an I. With the entire conversation that we've had, and I've been hearing fellow panelists as well, I'm sensing there are 3 or 4 kind of organizations and there is nothing wrong with this category that you are in. The first kind of organizations are like, ye diversity hame mat batao. Not now, please kal aana. And I have huge respect for these organizations. They have their agenda very clear. We are chasing numbers, don't trouble us. The second category is orders from the top. अब आया है global से mandate, हम कर रहे हैं इंडिया में. The third category is we don't mind. Good thing to do. And the last category is category which is truly authentically inclusive. And if you look at the DEI index, and I'm thinking there's something unveiling happening today as well, there are 20% of organizations who are in that not now here, please. Tang mat karo, kal aana. And then there are 20% in that category, which is authentically inclusive, LTI Mindtree, Wellspun, HDFC, some very large houses. But a large majority of us are stuck in the middle with the 60%, very well intentioned, but sometimes misaligned because there are multiple priorities. And my humble request to everybody in this room really is, because you are the decision maker, really is, that how do you look at, I sometimes go to clients and I work with them, they're like, जेंडर पे भी काम कर लेते हैं, जनरेशनल पे भी कर लेते हैं, प्राइड भी ले आओ, डिसेबिलिटी भी हो जाए, एंड आई ऑफन टेल देम ना हो बे, एंड दे टेक सीरियस ऑफेंस की सेइंग कंसल्टेंट को पैसे दे रहे हाँ बोलने के लिए, नाउ शी इज सेइंग नो. आई सेड यू हैव लिमिटेड बजट, लेट्स बी रियल, इट टेक्स मनी टू डू द पार्टी, right? You need money. There is a psychological sponsor, everybody is, I'm sensing, is there anybody in the room who's not a psychological sponsor for DEI? Anybody? Anybody? Everybody is. But who's the financial sponsor? Who's going to pay for it? And if you're paying for it, it makes sense for you to be mindful on what part of the equity, equality, inclusion are you really willing to pay your money. The last question I'm going to leave all of you, and that's something that I'm summarized for what I got from the panel here, really is DEI an HR agenda? Is DEI a business agenda? And I think the answer to the question should lead into the focus area as we move into 2026 and also the power lunch outside. Thank you so much for everyone. Thank you for being with us today.